Hello, today is February 10th, 2020, and the time is 10:10 a.m. Just wanted to do a real quick video on, I guess we'll call it psych evaluations or psychological status or along that lines. And I guess this is kind of inspired by some recent correspondence that I've had and just going over some general replies and comments online and stuff. So I thought I would just do this real quick video. Now, as a disclaimer right off the top, I'm going to say that I've been an advocate against the liberal arts theoretical pseudoscience of psychology for over 10 years. And towards the end of this video, I'll explain why that is. So, moving forward now, I've had 4 psychological evaluations in my life, work related. Now, the first time I had a psych eval done was I was around 22 or 23 years old, and that's when I was doing work for the Ministry of Correctional Services. And because of the environment and everything else, I remember going through that whole process, and I passed. I passed fine. In fact, somehow they figured my character was strong enough to deal with real sensitive kind of people, and I dealt with real pedophiles and real rapists. So somehow they figured that, you know, not only was I okay, but my character was strong enough. So anyway, that was the first psych eval I had around, say, 22 years old. The second psych eval that I had was when I was applying to become a police officer, and I would have been, I think, around 24 years old, 23, 24, somewhere around there. And I went through all the testing. There was a whole bunch of stuff. I remember sitting in a room with other people and doing some exams and everything. I passed everything, including the psych eval, nothing wrong. The last part of that of the recruitment process was, I guess, interviewing family. And I remember thinking to myself, this is where it's going to fall apart. And I talk about this in another video, a previous video. And I remember going to this individual and, you know, saying, listen, I have an opportunity here of a lifetime. Oh, you know, what's there to say? Well, apparently they had lots to say that wasn't in my favor, and I'm not going to get into all that right now. They had their own issues and spent a lifetime taking it out on me. But anyway, that's what happened with that. But my point is, I did pass that psych evaluation in my early 20s. Now, fast forwarding to around 2010, I had mentioned that a few years prior I had lost everything, and I left practicing law as agent. And everything just kind of, there's a lot of things going on in my life. It was 2000, so it was about a year before 2009. I just kind of walked away from everything, and I was homeless. It was a rough time, but you know, I bounced back. I don't dwell on things in the past. I move forward in my life, and that's how I've been able to progress in my life and not get consumed by anything, is by being able to let go and move forward. There's a difference between sharing a story or a series of stories, talking about, say, good or bad events in life, and dwelling on them. I don't dwell on these things unless I'm sharing a story to make a point or something. So I have always bounced back and keep moving forward. So anyway, about 2010, you know, I spent about a year and a half just shaking it off, and then like, okay, I got to do something. I had an opportunity through a government program to go back to school, which I wasn't eligible because I was already had post-secondary and all this other stuff. But anyway, there was, they figured there was value to me, to keep moving forward. So, and I really appreciated their help at the time, and I still do. So anyway, but I had to go through an assessment process because it was a program for homeless people, and I wasn't your stereotypical type of homeless person. And I remember one individual at the time saying to me, I'll never forget the quote, "You're the best dressed homeless guy I have ever seen." Because during that time, I always made sure I had a shower every day. I still maintain, you see how I dress. I went through a little hiccup. I never even considered, probably because I'm a bit naive, that there would be that stigma about being homeless, but whatever, it is what it is. So I had to go through a psych evaluation. I remember just thinking, like, this is dumb, but whatever. I had to jump through the hoops. And I was fine. The only thing that they said was that I was hyper stressed about being homeless. There was a lot of just trying to survive, eat, and everything else. And I remember, yeah, it was hard. And I wasn't equipped at all for it. It was just a regular, nice vehicle, but nothing like, I don't have the gear that I have now, or the vehicle that I have now to make it a little bit easier when I'm up in the mountains, for example. Anyway, kind of went off on a tangent. So I passed, and the government said, yeah, let's do it, and they paid for all my schooling and everything else. And that's how I got into the mental health field. And I'm going to be tying this all in shortly, but the irony of that with my original statement when I started this video. So we fast forward a little bit to around, was it May 5th it would have been. I was in the hospital, May 5th of 2015, when I was in the hospital after two nitwits decided to do street justice on me on behalf of the female. I ended up that week talking to, and I don't even remember who, but talking to someone who did an assessment because I was traumatized, and they said that, yeah, you have like serious post-traumatic stress, and everything was still fresh in my mind. And I remember all the symptoms and talking with the individual, and I guess they were kind of impressed because as I was talking with them and we were going back and forth, I was giving my evaluation about the different stages I was experiencing at that time and the sensations and everything else. And they said, well, yeah, you still got your head together, but the post-traumatic stress was through the roof. So that psych evaluation was based on the trauma that I experienced on May 4th, 2013. And then what has happened since then, of the constant bombardment of injustice, and I guess if you want to call it hope, and then disappointment, and then everything that kept piling up on top of me over the years, and having experienced all that just simply bombarded me. And no matter, and I've said this in other videos when I've shared times where I've kind of had little breakdowns, and I've done so to show that, I've explained it, I did all that to show the human side, that I'm a human being, and the effects this has, and how, other people have said that sharing that has helped them, etc., etc. And those times that I shared where I was completely messed up, that day or the day before, an event had taken place with the courts. Like, for example, I remember the one that I did the day before, or I think it was that day, whatever. I was found guilty, and I couldn't believe that I was found guilty of assaulting a police officer and obstruction, despite everything. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Look at my other videos for all that. So I guess that last assessment in May of 2013 had changed, and over the years, even friends that I've known have noticed how emotionally, mentally I've kind of deteriorated a bit. It has changed me. It has broken me, like shattered my mind a bit. I'm not the same strong individual that I used to be, but 7 years of being bombarded with bullshit it took its toll on me. And perhaps that's what why a lot of people don't stand up and fight for truth and justice, because of the cost. You know, it's not just a monetary cost or anything else. There's an impact on physical and emotional health as well. So anyway, so throughout my life, I've had psych evals regarding work. Fine. My last one after this event changed, and I guess it's kind of understandable. Where I will be, say, in 10 years, if I make it to 10 years, you know, is going to depend on how I react to this past 7-year nonsense with these, with this injustice that I had to endure, which I not only endured for myself, but for everyone. And a lot of people fail to understand that. So I guess I'm going to segue now into the irony of my becoming involved in the mental health field and my initial comment about the liberal art theoretical pseudoscience of psychology. And I don't need a PhD in bullshit to know bullshit. So where all that started, I'm just going to skim through this. I do talk about this in some other older videos, but I'm just going to skim through this so it ties in here. I had somebody that I knew involved with the whole mental health industry, and I ended up uncovering, I don't even know how to put it, what they were doing to this individual. I had 2 independent people approach me at 2 different times, remote from each other, tell me that they were doing experiments on this person that I knew. And the real hospitals couldn't figure out what was going on with this individual when they would end up there. And I intervened, and it was at that time, and it was about the mid-2000s, I'll just leave it at that, where I started to really research and figure out what's happening here. And that's when I became an advocate against that industry, and that's all it is an industry. And I've done videos about it, but that's how it all ties in, and that's where the irony is. Now, why did I get into the mental health field and then end up in this 7-year nightmare? Well, I didn't choose that profession because I was going through a government program. I had a little bit of a choice, and that was the best of the worst that I had to choose from, and so I went with it. And when I got in, I realized I was actually able to help people, but not as you would think, just by doing things like setting up a food program so people on disability had access to free quality groceries. And unfortunately, this 7-year bullshit out here has dwarfed that. But anyway, so that's that in a nutshell. I just wanted to share that little bit of tidbit, and I may do a video about living with someone who has mental illness. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and what are you going to do? Share.